Peppy was the victim in all this. Everything was stupid, all was lost. And if there was a man with the strength of mind to set fire to the whole castle inn and burn it to the ground, leaving no trace, like a piece of paper in the stove, he would be the man of Peppy's dreams today. Well, so Peppy came to work in the bar. She went on. 4 days ago, just before lunchtime. It's not easy work here, she said. In fact, it's murder. But you could do a lot for yourself. Peppy never used to live in the moment. And although in her wildest dreams, she wouldn't have thought of rising to occupy the post of barmaid herself, she kept her eyes open. She knew what the job was like. She hadn't been unprepared when she took it on. You can't take a post unprepared, or you'd lose it in the first few hours, particularly if you behave the way the chambermaids here did. When you're a chambermaid, you feel forgotten and forlorn. It's like working down the mine, or at least it is in the corridor where the secretaries stay. You don't see a soul for days on end, except for a few members of the public flitting back and forth, never venturing to look up. No one but the 2 or 3 other chambermaids who feel just as bitter about their lot. You can't leave your room in the morning. The secretaries want to be on their own. The servants bring their food from the kitchen. The chambermaids don't usually have anything to do with that. And you can't show yourself in the corridor at mealtimes either. It's only while the gentlemen are working that the chambermaids are allowed to tidy up. Not, of course, in the rooms that are occupied, but in those that happen to be empty. And the housework has to be done very quietly so as not to disturb the gentlemen at their work. But how can anyone clean and tidy quietly if the gentlemen stay in their rooms day after day, and then there are the servants going round, dirty riffraff that they are? And when a room is finally free for the chambermaid to go in, it's in such a state that not even a deluge could wash it clean. It's true that the gentlemen who come here are very fine, but you have a hard time of it mastering your disgust so that you can clean up after them. The chambermaids don't have too much work, but what there is of it is tough going, and never a word of praise, only blame, particularly the frequent and vexatious accusation that files have been lost while you were clearing up. In fact, nothing is ever lost. Every tiny piece of paper is handed in to the landlord. Well, files do get lost, yes, but it's not the maid's fault. And then commissions of inquiry come along, and the maids have to leave their room, and the commission of inquiry takes their beds apart. The maids don't have any possessions. Their few things fit into a pannier you can carry on your back. But the commission of inquiry spends hours searching all the same. Of course, it never finds anything. How would files get into the maids' rooms? What would the maids do with files? But once again the result is angry scolding and threats on the part of the disappointed commission of inquiry, conveyed only through the landlord. And never any peace, not by day or by night. Noise half the night, noise from first thing in the morning. If only the chambermaids at least didn't have to live there, but they must, because it's their business to bring small things ordered from the kitchen in between times, particularly at night. Again and again you hear that sudden banging of a fist on the chambermaid's door. The order is dictated. You run down to the kitchen. You shake the sleeping kitchen boys awake. You leave the tray of whatever has been ordered outside the chambermaid's door, from which the gentleman servants fetch it. How dreary it all is. But that's not the worst. The worst is when there are no orders, and in the middle of the night, when everyone ought to be asleep, and most people really do get to sleep in the end, you sometimes hear someone slinking around outside the chambermaid's door. Then the maids get out of the bed. The beds are above each other. There's very little space anywhere there. The whole room where the maids sleep is really no more than a big cupboard with 3 compartments. They listen at the door. They kneel down. They clutch one another in fear. And you keep hearing that person slinking about outside the door. Everyone would be glad if he finally did come in, but nothing happens. No one comes in. You have to remind yourself that there isn't necessarily any danger. Perhaps it's just someone pacing up and down, wondering whether to order something and unable to make up his mind. Well, perhaps that's all it is, but perhaps it's something quite different. The chambermaids don't really know the gentlemen at all. They've hardly set eyes on them. Anyway, the maids inside the room are half dead with fear. And when at last it's quiet again outside, they lean against the wall without even enough strength to get back into bed. And that was the life waiting for Peppy. This very evening, she said, she was to move back to her old place in the maid's room. And why? Because of Kay and Frida. Back to the life she'd barely escaped. Escaped with Kay's help, to be sure, but also by dint of her own diligent efforts. Because the maids on duty down there, even the most fastidious, do tend to neglect themselves. Who would they be prettifying themselves for? No one sees them, At most, the kitchen staff. Well, maybe a maid who's satisfied with that will prettify herself. But otherwise they are in their little room or in the gentlemen's rooms. And again, it would be silly and a waste of time to enter those rooms in neat, clean clothes. And you're always in artificial light and stuffy air. The heating is always on and always dead tired. The best way to spend your one free afternoon a week is to find some quiet place near the kitchen where you can sleep undisturbed and without fear.